Hey everybody, it's Louie again from Glass Blast Collision. Got a new project I'm working on. We got some snow now. We just got 5 inches a while ago, and then today we got another 3 inches. So I dug the tractor out, and I'm going to retrofit it for a plow. I'm going to make a plow out of a piece of stainless steel I got here. It's like 16 gauge steel, and then I'm going to put a frame around it and put a blade on it. I got some heavier material here that's 1/8 inch, pretty thick material, and I'm going to cut a piece out and make a blade for the bottom of the chute here. And then I got this hydraulic cylinder here that I bought about 4 years ago from my neighbor, and it's got a flow valve, and it's got a little 12-volt power pack that I'll have to hook up to a switch to make it go up and down. It's got a solenoid on it and a reservoir and so on, and it was in perfect condition when I bought it. So it's been sitting around on the bench. I might have put some fluid in it and stuff, clean it up a bit, but that should work really good to pull the plow up, and the weight of the plow pulls it back down, so it's just a power up. So anyways, that's what I'm working on now. I noticed when I was digging it out of the snow, the tractor was pretty non-tractor. It had no traction at all. So I ended up I got some self-tapping screws and a box of old nuts that I had, and I put some studs on the tires. So hopefully that'll grab the ice up enough, because my driveway is kind of uphill. Goes uphill to the road, and I mean, like, these things are absolutely terrible on ice if you don't have chains or studs on the tires. So I put some studs in the tires. We'll see how that works. If that works okay, great. If not, I'll have to put some chains on. The only problem with chains with this tractor is that there's no holes inside there, so you can't wrap the hoop ones on that go around the tire like this. You got to put the whole netting on them, and I'd have to go and buy some, or buy a bunch of chain and make my own. But yeah, so I'm going to try this stud method. That should work pretty good, I think. Those screws go in about 1 inch, and they're all tight. So if I have enough of them, then it'll be not riding just on one row of screws. It'll be riding on 3 rows, and this might be the footprint here. So there might be like 5s grabbing the ice on the footprint down at the bottom of the tires. So we'll see how that works. I'm gonna get at her. So there we go. I cut a piece of the stainless steel pizza oven chimney, and it's just a rough piece. It's got the welds on it. I got another section of it that I saved for another project, but this here will work good for a plow blade, and it's the right width for the tractor. It used to be curved a little bigger, but a little smaller, but now I kind of flattened it out a bit, so that should be good. And then this material right here, I cut to length, and I'm going to cut it down that line right there. This is going to be the top piece that reinforces it along the top here. I'm going to weld it on there, and then this part right here I'm going to weld along the bottom of it as the blade. And then I'll have to make some pieces that go around the back here to reinforce the end here. And then what I'll do is take the chunk that I cut off, which is right here, and I'll make some brackets to weld on the back here so that I can put my arms off of the axle here onto it. And then that will be and I'll put a couple pieces across the back between those two brackets. I'll cut a bracket there, and then weld them on and cap the ends so that it's got like a nice footprint on the back of the plow. And then I'll run a piece of angle iron from one to the other. That'll give it more support there, and maybe I might run another one from this side of the mount all the way out to this piece that I'm going to have curved on the back. So it'll be robust, and it'll be able to handle pushing on it with the tractor and snow. Okay, so we got that cut in half. We're going to use this piece here for the top and this here for the bottom. So we'll kind of go something like that. I'm going to weld that right on the top there to give it some meat. And then that there will get welded on the bottom. And I think I'm going to put like a little skidder feet on both corners so that it doesn't like dig right in and cause any damage. You want to be able to have it so that it jumps over high spots or flexes a little bit. So I'll end up putting some feet on the bottom from the back side. So yeah, so I got that two pieces tacked on there now. And I'm just going to stand it up and weld it up solid. So here we go. I took a piece of angle iron and I put a bunch of slits in it and clamped it on with the vice grips and got it so it bent to the shape of the plow. So I just laid another piece of angle iron beside the other one the same and put the same amount of slits in it. So now I'm just gonna bend it so it'll bend on all those points, and that's how that one fits. So I'll just clamp that, spin this around, clamp that, and weld it like that. Finish welding that up, and then I'll hit it with a grinder and clean it up. But like I say, it's just a plow. It's not like as long as it's strong, it doesn't have to be like super pretty. I mean, it's just made out of scrap materials that I have, and I'm just going to be scraping it on the ground, so it doesn't have to be like too aesthetically pleasing, as long as it looks like a decent shape of a plow and it functions. And that's all I need. So what I need to do is, I've already done this. This here was in that hole, and this here was stuck in here like this. And that's like an oil crankcase breather. So it was up like that, basically. It was up like that. And I took that out because that's in my way. And I'm going to shorten it down. I'm going to shorten this tube down. And I'm going to make it so that it's just that much sticks in. Just about that much. And that oil cap sits in the end of it. So it sits right where it is, basically where it is now. And now it's going to enable me to have room in here for the alternator to go. Right now the alternator is kind of stuck out of the side of the tractor, and it's because of the exhaust manifold is why it has to sit out that far. But this here is in my way to put a pipe onto my front end loader setup. So that alternator's got to be moved on the other side and in. So I got to take that off now and make a bracket on the block and weld some brackets to it so I can attach the alternator to it and rewire it and run a belt that's the right length to operate everything. So I took the alternator off and I made this pulley here in this bracket so that I can have this out far enough, because what happens is the belt will rub against the bottom of the distributor. So it has to be like clearing the distributor in that space right there. There's a space right there between the bottom of the distributor and the belt, and it needs to clear. So I had to put this idler pulley out here. So I made that up. It's nice and true and square. Just gonna weld that cap on there. So that idler there, that'll enable me to take a piece of material like this and run it straight in there like that, and then the piece will come across the top of the hood here. Arms to the loader will pivot off of an area right here that I weld on when I put a piece across the top here. And then I basically need to put a foot off of this bracket right here that's on the bottom of the crankcase and bring it over to the bottom of this pipe. I'll weld the cap on the bottom of the pipe with a nut in it and go through the plate that comes across into the bottom of this pipe, so it holds it there at that point on both sides. Put another one over there, and then I made this apparatus right here. Is kind of like a template, and it's the bolt holes on the cast iron crankcase oil pan and the block, and that bolts the oil pan onto the block. And I want to use this as a pattern for a plate of steel, 1/4 inch thick plate of steel, so that I can come off the side of the block. Yeah, so here we go. There, I'm gonna make a plate for attaching to the between the block and the cast iron oil pan, and put longer bolts up into the here, and then I'll put a bracket downwards and utilize those 2 bolts for those brackets that go across that hold that plate in where this pipe is going to sit on top of. So that'll be triangulated, and then to support this I got to come from there down into this area up to the pipe, and I'll triangulate a bracket there so it's got this triangulation and keeps it strong, and everything will bolt in, and then I don't have to go all the way back to that tang there right on the back there. Normally a loader bolts onto there, but because this really isn't that big a loader, it's more like a I don't know, a utility loader. And I'll shorten that piece of angle iron right there, and that'll bolt up to those 2 brackets that are there. That one right there, and the other one on the other side. And then I'll just bolt it right through the bolt holes that are in that bracket. And then I'll shorten it, and I'll have to put like a little ear on it on both ends so that I can set the end of that pipe on it. So now this part here is bolted to the tractor, not to the front axle, because the front axle, it pivots back and forth, so I don't want these pipes crushing the hood, you know, as it goes over a pothole. So that's got to be mounted stationary to the hood, to the tractor that the hood's bolted to, as well as this apparatus. And then I'll come across here with another chunk of this pipe, and I'll moon this out. I'll pie cut this semicircle and then weld that piece on so it protrudes out here about that far. And then I'll put a bearing on the end of it, and make it so that a bolt can go in, an arm can pivot off of it. And same with this side here. Do the same thing. And over here on this side of the tractor, I put a bar across the block and bolted it through those 2 big bolts right there that go into the head. And the alternator bracket's gonna mount off of that. I got a bolt going through there now. I just need to weld the other eyelet that holds it on the opposite side, and then I'm gonna get perfect belt alignment. Here's the water pump pulley right here where my finger, that's where the belt fits in. So you can kind of see where the other pulley is at the back there. So that should be good. And this will allow me to have room to put my pipe, because the alternator's not sticking out over here either, it's tucked in. So over here, same thing. I'll triangulate a piece of material on the side of the block and make it so it goes over to this pipe to give it some reinforcement, and then when the support comes down here, it lands on that triangulated plate that's bolted to the block, and that bottom bracket down there, that bracket right there, there's 2 bolts right there under that governor, so it'll bolt right there. And I don't know, maybe even the same pattern might work for this side of the block. We'll see how symmetrical Mr. Ford made his bolt pattern for his oil pan. So we'll see, but this will be basically the one side of the edge where the bolts go through, and then off of here, there'll be like a plate that triangulates and then goes like that, and then I'll put a plate on the end of it to go down and catch those 2 bolts that go into the front of the block, and then that'll give it some integrity. So I think I'm going to end this video here, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.